Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this interview. I'm Don Finn, president of the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, and also serve as chair of the Publications Committee. And it is my pleasure to conduct interviews with various authors who have been contributed to the latest edition here. And with us today is Pam Cote. She is joining us from Maine, and she is with the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation. We're going to talk about her article, Equity in Literacy, highlighting 3 Black women of literacy. So Pam, welcome. Would you like to just give a brief introduction to everybody?
Sure. So my name is Pam Cote. I'm the Senior Director of Curriculum and Training for the Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, Pam, and I really appreciate your piece. I had the pleasure of reviewing your piece for inclusion in the journal and was happy to do so because I am a history guy. And I was really found it to be very interesting, the impact of these 3 women that you've highlighted here in your piece. So can you tell us just a little bit about why you wrote this article for the COABE journal?
Sure. So we know that low literacy is an issue of equity. And over the summer, we came across the stories of these 3 extraordinary Black women, Harriet A. Jacobs, Susie King Taylor, and Septima Poinsett Clark. And they had recently been inducted into the Reading Hall of Fame. And we were just really fascinated when we read about the contribution that they had on Black literacy and adult literacy and even family literacy. So Harriet Jacobs and Susie King Taylor, they were born slaves, and Clark was heavily involved in the civil rights movement and the voter registration project. And so when we learned about their stories, it just really connected to some of the things we're facing in today's world as we're all striving for equity for all citizens and social justice. And we wanted to share their stories. Their stories also connected to our beliefs and our mission. That we believe that all adults should be able to read, write, and comprehend in order to be able to navigate the world with dignity. So we were really excited to come across their stories and to find a way to share them.
That's great. Hey, tell us a little bit more about the impact that each of these women have had on literacy within their circles, and even as you see it now, even in a broader sense, through this article and through the work of the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation.
Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting. They all have a different impact on literacy. So Harriet Jacobs, we know, was born a slave, and there's early accounts of her teaching other slaves. She has a fascinating story of her escape to freedom. And then, of course, she became a freed woman and went on and taught in schools. And early accounts even show that there was the component of family literacy, which is just so fascinating that parents and child, they would come together and they were learning to read. Susie King Taylor has a story similar to that. And Clark she's a really fascinating story because she made her teaching authentic. She tied it directly to the voter registration project. And she just had such a strong impact during that time with literacy and her contribution during that time period.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. And I think that, being right in the midst of the civil rights movement, educating people using curriculum and, literacy, to encourage voter participation is excellent. So I'm wondering, as this contribution is in the journal, I'm wondering, for those folks who may not have read it yet, what would you say, what would you hope that they would benefit? What would the benefit be for adult education teachers and ultimately for the students of those teachers and practitioners?
Well, I think for teachers, we hope that they are inspired by these 3 women, and perhaps they will dig a little further into their stories and just the history of adult literacy, which is so fascinating. There were other women that were equally as impactful. We highlighted these 3 who were recently inducted into the Reading Hall of Fame. We created a small unit of study for educators to use with their learners, and we wanted to tie the stories of these women directly to literacy instruction. So we tied it to informational reading strategies and written reflection, but we also wanted to take it a step further and make it very relevant. So we wanted learners to think about the impact of their own actions and contribution to the world, because we thought that was a nice connection back to these 3 women. We also designed it so that adult learners could tie it to their own personal literacy journey and do some exploring with that. We also created a resource list that lives within this unit, but it will also be separate on our site. We know that teachers, and I was a teacher for years, but we know that teachers are examining their everyday teaching practices to make sure that they're teaching with an anti-racist, anti-bias lens. So we created this, I would say it's probably, we could call it a diversity toolkit that's filled with resources to help support the unit, but also to help support in their everyday teaching.
And so where can our practitioners find more information about that if they're interested in highlighting some of these women, integrating some of the units into their instruction?
So this is going to be located and is located right now on our website in our resources section. There's a link directly in the article that will bring you to actually 3 different things on this page. It will bring you to the unit, 3 Black Women of Literacy. It will bring you to the diversity toolkit. And it will also bring you to some lessons that were collected from across the United States, elementary through high school, of teachers. I think we have about 10 lessons in there of teachers who we felt had developed lessons that really focused on teaching with that anti-racist bias lens. And another note is that the unit was designed that it could be taught in its entirety, to go all the way through and spend a couple weeks exploring these women, but it was also designed so that a teacher could go in and maybe pull out some pieces that might be relevant to a current study they were doing and just explore from within a lesson.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of flexibility and really multiple uses for these resources, which is excellent. So let me ask, as we're wrapping this up, are there any other comments, anything else you'd like to share with our readers?
Well, I would just say that we really hope that they enjoy learning about these women and they feel inspired. We hope that they'll go in and they will use these resources. And we especially hope that we will hear from them on the resources. We would love to get feedback. We would love to hear learner testimonials. We want to create products that are engaging and relevant and accessible to students, and we can only do that with feedback. So this is a small offering on these women. We hope to do more small projects like this for the field, and we really need the feedback to do that.
Great. And Pam, how can they provide feedback?
So right on the page and in the article, I have my email in there. And so for right now, they can email me directly. I would love to read the feedback. I love talking to adult learners. That's the part, when you're a teacher, you always want to talk to students and hear about their journey. And I would love to continue to talk to teachers.
Well, that's great. Pam, thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you do on behalf of the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation. They are a great partner with COABE. We have a lot of interactions that go on behind the scenes, and really appreciate the work that is done on behalf of our learners and those who teach them. So thank you again for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me this morning.
Absolutely.